We conquer the world. How do we do that? By establishing the reign of the Mahatmas everywhere, introducing their customs, rules and laws. Now you go beyond your personal sphere and turn every room you enter into a sanctuary, the home of relatives, friends and acquaintances, the clubhouse, the supermarket, an office room, and so on. Even when you go to the market to do your shopping, you are arching the spiritual order of a temple over this place. The great skill, the tremendous challenge for a spiritual warrior is to build and defend a temple, an outpost of Shambhala, everywhere, in any place, even under the most unfavorable conditions. Following the example of Saint John of Capistrano, who was able to turn even the army camp under the walls of Belgrade into a monastery. How am I to proceed if my fellow men don't want to have anything to do with a monastic rule? You can take the sublime vibration of your inner temple with you wherever you go. Wherever we are, wherever we go, we take our monastery cell with us. Practice meditation, and you will find that you are carrying within your heart a portable paradise. You gently draw others into your paradise. You invite them into this beautiful new world. You envelop them, as it were, with this sacred atmosphere. This is possible anywhere, as Jesus' descent into hell proves. Of course, you cannot and must not force the predominantly ignorant, lazy, and often even malicious people in your environment to conform to your ideal. What you can do in any situation, even the most terrible one, is radiate your golden aura of purity, wisdom, strength, joy of being, light and love into your surroundings. Then, like a single woman in the company of men, you raise the vibration of this space around you by your mere presence and contribute to a better, healthier, holier atmosphere. Precisely the emanations of a pure earthly teacher raise the vibrations all around him, sometimes over a tremendous area. Thus, not only is space purified, but sometimes even the fires of the individuals who surround him are kindled. That is why in ancient times it was considered a great privilege to live near a teacher and serve him, as this provided the possibility of contact with his aura. The East knew then and deeply revered the sacred laws, and in present-day India it is considered a blessing if a holy man chooses to live in one's vicinity. In this way, you will touch the higher self in one or the other of your fellow men and encourage him to unfold it. That is all we can do for the time being. People, through their own efforts, can act strictly ethically and produce healthy emanations thereby. When you have built the sublime world of a temple in your heart, when you have made your living and working place a sanctuary, you are living in a higher order, in a paradise where peace and solemnity reign. Now you leave this stronghold and go into the world among people. Then you are automatically, according to your nature, a representative of this higher culture. This is as if an alien from a higher civilization were banished to a lower planet, or a Greek philosopher among barbarians. Your natural task is to help your fellow men to improve their way of life. The Brotherhood sends out messengers to raise the cultural level on Earth. You, too, can be such an emissary, such an authorized representative. Can you give a practical example? In 1870, the French lady Aurélie Picard meets an Arab prince, marries him and follows him to his homeland, the Sahara. There she encounters primitive conditions and cannot help but introduce her French civilization. The house is thoroughly cleaned. Sand and vermin are removed. People no longer eat on the floor with their hands, but at the table with knife and fork. The desert princess ensures that in the village rubbish is no longer dumped on the street. She heals the sick and sets up a school for the children. Around the newly built Kurdan palace, Mrs. Picard makes the desert arable and transforms it into a flourishing garden. The bestseller The Desert Princess by Roger Frison-Roche tells the story of her adventurous life. You should understand your work for the new world in a similar way, very practically focused on improving, beautifying, and uplifting everyday life. My dear Zong, that's another one of your high-flying fantasies. You want me, humble pipsqueak, to become the founder of a new higher culture. The path of the great soul, of which you tend to speak in such a challenging way, is too high for me. Well, then let us start further down and take the path of the small soul. You remember? We had already spoken several times about a modern saint, the Japanese Mikao Usui. He visited the slums of Kyoto to give Reiki, psychic energy, to alleviate the plight of the poor and suffering. From this, the Reiki healing method developed and spread all over the world. This example shows you a very modest and simple way to make your contribution to improving the world. You do not even have to go to the slums. As soon as you leave your meditation room, you will meet someone in everyday life, in your own environment, in your family, among relatives, friends, acquaintances, and colleagues at work who is suffering, whose vibration has dropped, and who is in urgent need of elevation. You have only just descended from the high summit of your pure holy world, when those in need are already waiting for you on the threshold, seeking your advice and help. To uplift these fellow men is your finest task. Let us listen to a great wisdom. Let no one ever come to you without leaving better and happier. How can I achieve this? You perform with the sufferer the exercises, transformation into an immortal and elevation into the fiery state. In the same way as we discussed at the beginning of this video, you first learn this practice yourself and then show it to others. He knows how hard it is when surrounded by tigers to rise up and carry others on into the higher spheres. But this is the labor that must be performed by those who are launching the new world, because even the very beginning must be tangible. Here is the way out of the vale of tears. Those who are suffering and in need of help must first rise up and assume the mental attitude of an immortal. Only then their spiritual power, their psychic energy, is set free and able to work with all its might. Only then, in a state of high vibration, standing high above the situation, should someone look for a solution to his practical problems, which, depending on the circumstances, may or may not be at hand. Perhaps the task is only to find the relatively best way out among many bad ones. There were those among the disciples and followers whose lives were filled with misery and daily hardship. The teacher, Jesus, would first help them by uplifting their spirits, and only when balance was established would he discuss their problems. How am I to proceed concretely and practically? You show your fellow man that he has a soul, that he is a soul, and how he can become immortal, invulnerable, fearless, and completely free. As Prometheus brought fire to humanity, you give them the priceless gift of immortality. You teach him to think, feel, speak and act as his eternal individuality, his heart, desires, in such a way that he reveals not the animal, but the divine aspect of his nature. You help him to establish and maintain the ideal condition of his soul, the fiery state of high vibration, of purity, wisdom, vitality, joy of being, and love. In this way, you provide your neighbor with concrete, practical, philanthropic help. This is how you abandon fruitless talk and theorizing and finally take action. So everyone who prepares his heart and uplifts the hearts of those around him is already doing the will of the one who sent him. The good news with which you straighten up those who labor and are heavy laden is you are a soul, you are immortal, you are invulnerable, you are full of strength and joy. May this method of spiritual help spread worldwide. Our slogan, our battle cry is strengthen the soul through transformation and elevation. How, then, does a hierarch create on earth? By uplifting all the surroundings.